What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing a Master Duel Vampire deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an absolutely insane deck that got some amazing support out of the most recent selection pack, even giving us a new boss monster, the Zombie Vampire, which is a really awesome card. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell and there soon come part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description every single video, getting us signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing a single copy of Vampire Voivode. Voivode is a really good one-up in this deck. That is a really awesome monster to summon to your field because it has some really cool effects. That if this card is normal summoned, you can target up to 2 monsters in your opponent's graveyard and special summon those monsters to the field in defense position, but their effects are negated, which can help you step into your copy of the Zombie Vampire, which is really cool. It also has the ability that when a monster effect is activated while a monster with the same name is in the graveyard, quick effect, you can negate the activation, which is a really cool effect as well. And if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's graveyard, you can tribute 2 monsters to special summon this card from your graveyard back to your field, which is a really neat effect. I really love that first effect, to be able to just get 2 monsters out of your opponent's graveyard and put them on your side of the field, which is just really insane. I then play a single copy of Vampire Vamp. I love this card and it's so good in this deck because it has the ability that once per turn, when this card or a vampire monster is normal summoned to your side of the field, then you can target a face-up monster that your opponent controls whose attack is higher than this card's and equip that card to this card. And this card gains attack equal to the combined original attack of monsters equipped to this card by its effect. And if this card is sent to the graveyard while it's equipped with a card effect, you can special summon this card from the graveyard, which is a really good effect to just get this card back on the field. But this card can come out and become absolutely massive, which is really cool. I then play a single copy of Vampire Grace. Vampire Grace is a really good extender in the deck because when a level 5 or higher zombie monster is special summoned to your side of the field by a card effect of a zombie monster, while this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 2,000 life points to special summon this card from the grave, which is a pretty good effect just to get you an additional monster on the field. I then play a single copy of Vampire Scarlet Scourge. This card is a really good one-up in the deck that basically has the ability, if it's normal or special summon, you can pay 1,000 life points to target a vampire monster in the graveyard and special summon it. But it can attack this turn, but that's a really good effect to be able to work with a bunch of your vampire monsters to help you go in for XZ plays or even link climb into some really powerful monsters. It also has the ability that at the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed any monsters by battle, you can special summon them from the graveyard to your field, essentially turning them into vampires, which is really cool. I then play a single copy of Shadow Vampire. Shadow Vampire is a great card to help you make all sorts of plays in the deck and is a really good normal summon in the deck because when it is normal summoned, you can special summon out a dark vampire monster from your hand or deck, except another copy of this card. But if you do, only that monster can attack for the rest of the turn. But this card is a really good one-up in the deck to help you go in for some really powerful monsters that this card can actually summon, which is really neat. I then play a single copy of Vampire Fraulein. Fraulein is a great card to be able to protect your monsters from battle because it can make them absolutely massive. Because it has the ability that when a monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position, and you can only effect this card once per turn. That once per battle, if your zombie monster battles an opponent's monster during that damage calculation, quick effect, you can pay life points in multiples of 100 with a maximum of 3,000 life points you can pay to increase your battling monster's attack and defense points by that much during that damage calculation only. And at the end of the battle phase, if this card is destroyed in a monster by battle, you can special summon those monsters from the graveyard to your field, which is really cool because this card can go all the way up to 3,600 and boost up your other zombie monsters to get really, really big. I then play 3 copies of Vampire Ghost. Vampire Ghost is one of the cards we actually got out of the selection pack and just takes its deck to a whole new level. That if this card is normal summoned, you can send one other vampire card from your hand or face from field to the graveyard to add a level 4 or higher zombie or vampire monster from your deck to your hand, which can search any of these vampire monsters, which is really awesome. And if you do, you can send a level 2 or lower vampire monster from your deck to the graveyard graveyard like your copy of Retainer or Familiar, which is really good because they can special summon themselves. It also has the ability that during the main phase, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then pay 500 life points, and then immediately as the card resolves, you get to normal summon a vampire monster, essentially getting you one of your vampire monsters on the field, which is really awesome, without wasting your additional normal summon. I then play 3 copies of Vampire Retainer. Vampire Retainer is a really awesome card in this deck, because it has the ability, if this card is special summoned, you can pay 500 life points to add a vampire spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And if this card is in the graveyard, you can send a vampire card from your hand or face it in field to the graveyard to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field, which combos extremely well with our copy of Vampire Ghost. I then play 3 copies of Vampire Familiar, which has the exact same effect as Vampire Retainer, but it has the ability, if this card is special summon, pay 500 life points to add a vampire monster instead of a vampire spell or trap from your deck to your hand. I then play 3 copies of Unizombie. Unizombie is one of the best normal summons for zombies in the entire game. This card is really good overall because it lets you send monsters from your deck to the graveyard, or even from your hand to the graveyard, to be able to get those zombie monsters in the grave so that they can come in with their maximum potential. I then play a single copy of Gozuki. This card is basically just an additional Armageddon Knight for the deck, that during the main phase you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is a great effect. I then play a small Zombie World package in the deck, which is going to be a single copy of Baller Drop. This card is just too good in the deck not to play, because it has the ability that during the standby phase, if there's a face-up card in this field spell zone, and this card's in the graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position, which is really good to have this card because it is a walking negate. Because it also has the ability that you can once per chain, when a zombie monster effect is activated, except the copy of Doom King Baller Draw activates this effect, then except during the damage step, quick effect, you can apply one of these effects to either negate that effect or banish a monster from the field or grave, but you cannot activate the same effect again this turn, which is a really cool effect. I then play a single copy of Banshee. Banshee is just a really good card overall in this deck to help you get to your copy of Zombie World as quickly as possible. And then I play a single copy of Glow Bloom. Glow Bloom is a really good card in the deck as well to send from your deck to the graveyard off your copy of Unizombie to be able to get to your copy of Doom King Baller Drop or one of your really powerful high-level vampire monsters like Voivode. I then play a single copy of Mizuki. Mizuki is also a really good one in the deck because you can banish this card from the graveyard to bring back one of your zombies from the grave. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the hand traps that we're playing in the deck. So for the hand traps, I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just one of the best hand traps in the entire game. Plus it is a zombie monster, which is really helpful in this particular build, but this card basically stops the opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Maxi. Maxi is just absolutely insane in Master Duel. It's just overall a fantastic card, because this card basically has the ability, every time your opponent special summons a monster to the field this turn, you get to draw a card, which is really insane how many times you're going to get to draw multiple cards off this card's effect. So that's it for the monsters and the hand traps, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is just a really good card overall in any zombie deck because you're trying to get your zombies into the graveyard so you can use them for their maximum potential. And then play a single copy of Vampire's Desire. Vampire's Desire is a really good card, but you only need a single copy of this card because it is searchable in the deck. But it has a really good effect that you can activate one of these effects to either target a face-up monster that you control and send a vampire monster from your deck to the graveyard with a different level from that monster, and if you do, the targeted monster becomes a level that was sent to the graveyard for this card's effect until the end of the turn, or you get to target a vampire monster in the grave to send a monster you control to the grave, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster from the grave, essentially letting you level modulate your monsters or be a monster reborn, which is really cool. And then play 2 copies of Vampire Domain. Vampire Domain is a really interesting card that gives you an additional normal summon by paying 500 life points, which is really nice, but it also has the ability each time your vampire monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you gain the same amount of life points, which can help you out a lot because you do have some cards like Vampire Frolin that will make you pay life points for their effects. And then play 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is just really fitting for this deck and also a fantastic card to just stop your opponent's hand traps while you're going in for your plays. And then play 2 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization combos extremely well with this deck with your copies of Zombie World because it will turn every everything into zombies, so you can step into your copy of your Nether Soul Dragon extremely easily. The 2 copies of Zombie World come in extremely handily with your copy of your Banshee to be able to send that card from your deck to the graveyard off your copy of Unizombie to then banish and get to your copy of Zombie World, turning everything on the field and in both players' graveyards into zombie monsters, which can really stop your opponent's plays. This card also combos extremely well with your copy of Super Poly to be able to get rid of opponent's monsters. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing just 2 traps in this particular build. It's going to be 2 copies of Vampire Domination. Vampire Domination is a really good counter trap in this deck that is searchable, that has the ability that when a spell trap card or monster effect is activated, while you control a vampire monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then if it was a monster card, you gain life points equal to the original attack, essentially being an Infernity barrier that also gives you life points in this deck. I feel like 2 copies of this card is absolutely insane because it's okay to draw into this card, but it's also easy to search in the deck with your copies of your Vampire Retainer. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of the Zombie Vampire. This card is absolutely insane, and it does require 2 level 8 monsters, but you can also use your opponent's monsters to be able to XZ into this card. Because this card has a really good effect that if you use a monster with a level that is owned by your opponent for this card's XZ summon, for this card's summon, it can be treated as a level 8 monster, which is really neat because with your copies of Voivode, you're going to bring your opponent's monsters from the graveyard back to your field, or your copies of Scarlet Scourge will revive your opponent's monsters to your field, which can be used to summon out your copy of the Zombie Vampire. It also has the ability that neither player can target this card with effects of monsters special summon that were special summoned, except with monsters special summoned from the graveyard. You can also detach a material from this card, and each player sends the top 4 cards from their deck to the graveyard, and then if any monsters were sent to the graveyard by this effect, you can special summon one of those monsters to your field, which can be a monster that was in your opponent's control, which is really cool. I then play a single copy of Vampire Sheridan. This card is just really easy to summon and has the exact same effect as your copy of Zombie Vampire, that if you're going to use a monster that was originally owned by the opponent, you can treat it as a level 6 to be able to summon out this card. And then once per turn, you can detach a material from this card and then target one card that your opponent controls and send it to the grave. And once per turn, if a monster card is sent from the field from the field to your opponent's graveyard by a card effect, or a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to your opponent's graveyard, you can detach a material in this card to special summon one of those monsters to the field in defense, which is really cool because it combos with its own effect. Then play a single copy of Nether Soul Dragon. Nether Soul Dragon is just really easy to summon off your copy of Super Polymerization when you have your copy of Zombie World on the field, which is a really cool thing to be able to summon out this card to your side of the field. And then play a single copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, because this card is a really good Super Poly target overall in the deck. Play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is a really awesome walking negate in this deck to be able to stop the opponent from using effects, and this card is just a really good card because it can pop a card every turn. Then play a single copy of Borreload Savage Dragon. You can play a copy of Chaos Ruler instead of this card, but I really like this card with the amount of Link monsters I'm playing in this deck because it's a really good card to have as a walking negate. Then play a single copy of Red Eyes Zombie Necro Dragon. This card is really easy to summon to the field and can get absolutely massive. It also has a really neat effect that when another zombie monster is destroyed by battle, then you can special summon one of those zombie monsters from either player's graveyard to your field, which combos really well with your copy of Zombie World to be able to bring those monsters from your opponent's graveyard to your field to then make your copy of Zombie Vampire or a copy of Vampire Sheridan, which is really nice. For the Link monsters, I'm playing a single copy of Access Code Talker because it's really easy to summon in this deck, and it's a really good game ender to be able to just make this card and be able to pop multiple cards on the field. One copy of Vampire Fascinator. This card is absolutely insane because if this card is Link Summon, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon to your field in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombie monsters. You can also target a zombie monster or vampire monster and then target one monster your opponent controls and take control of it until the end of the turn by tributing that vampire monster on your side of the field, which is a really awesome effect that you can just basically take any monsters your opponent has and you can tribute this card for that effect. I then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, a single copy of IP Masquerena to be able to make your copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn, which is a really cool effect. One copy of Vampire Sucker, because it's just really good in this deck overall, and sometimes you need the suck. One copy of Avengers Savior. This card is just a really good zombie card overall to link summon into. And then a single copy of Link Rebo, because you can use it in the deck, and it's really good overall. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played with vampires before, you definitely should give this deck a try. It's really fun to be able to play with, especially now that we have all the new support cards for this deck. And it's just an absolutely insane deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can come part of the notification spot, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.